Yashar Ali is a good dude. He's a journalist, and I highly recommend him. And this story is one of the best examples of why I think Yashar is a good dude. I talked about him in a video the other day and called him a damn good journalist, and this shows you exactly why. I even retweeted this. He works with New York Magazine, Huffington Post, which many people might say, whoa, Tim, are you sure? Yes. In this story that Yashar tweeted out, he got a call from the managing editor of NBC, MSNBC Politics, who was calling to bully him on behalf of the DNC. Wow. There are a lot of people who work in journalism who will bend over backwards for the tribe, for their agenda. Yashar is not one of them, but he was certainly confronted by someone who is. He's got this huge story where he wrote it all out. What is it, like 25 tweets, where he goes into detail about how someone working with NBC was trying to bully him to stop him from publishing information that was bad for the Democrats. Let's read the story. Yashar said, yesterday, I received a call from Daphne Linzer. And that's just her name. She's the managing editor of politics at NBC News and MSNBC Politics. There, she says it. Daphne's conduct during the call was highly inappropriate and unethical. So what was the purpose of her call? She called me to bully me on behalf of the DNC. Daphne, who oversees the political coverage for NBC and MSNBC, was calling to bully me into delaying the publication of an innocuous scoop, and at no point did she advocate for her network. It was only about the DNC. I want to point out something really quick. I want to do this. He gets into this. He says clearly there are going to be partisans who try to use this to smear the media. I want to make it clear. I don't think this should be a reflection of everyone in media. But just like Yashar wants to call this person out, I want to do the same thing. I want to highlight that while I think for the most part, many of the mainstream news outlets like NBC, CBS, ABC, not UCNN, are pretty good. They're pretty good, not perfect. And pretty good doesn't mean great. Like, it means like you just barely make, okay. Because I use them as sources too. I try to fact check everything and even double check some of the sources I use. But this is a story about somebody working within media who tries to use their media influence to push around other journalists to protect the Democrats. Let's read on. He said, yesterday morning, I received a tip from a trusted source. The source told me the DNC would be announcing the dates of the first 2020 primary debates later that day. The source gave me the dates they would be announcing, June 26th and 27th. At first, I thought it was just a fun tidbit that I could tweet out, but after I called several presidential campaign staffers, I learned that all of the Dem campaigns were desperate to learn what the dates were going to be. I decided to post the scoop as an item in my newsletter. This wasn't a huge scoop, but it was a decent one, so I quickly called the DNC to fact check the tip as I was running out of time. The dates would be announced on MSNBC in the 4 p.m. hour. It was important to note that almost of all of my communication with the DNC was off the record. So I won't share most of what was said, but I can tell you it's pretty run-of-the-mill stuff. I asked the DNC if my tip was accurate, and I asked if they could call me back in 10 minutes. A few minutes later, they called back and asked if I could delay posting the scoop for another hour so they could go through their important notification calls to the state parties. I told them that I couldn't wait as the news would leak and leave me without a story. That's all I can say about the call. 2 minutes later, I received a call from Daphne. I've never spoken to Daphne by phone. A couple of years ago, she reached out to me to see if I wanted to have coffee and talk about working at NBC News, but I declined. I was actively investigating NBC matters and thought it would be strange if I discussed a job. Look at that. Ethics. So when I saw Daphne calling, I assumed she would ask me to consider delaying my post so that MSNBC could announce it first. Given that this was an innocuous scoop and not some investigative story, I wouldn't have lost sleep if I had delayed, but that's not why she was calling. So to recap real quick, MSNBC was going to post this innocuous scoop at 4 p.m. He assumed she was asking him not to scoop them, which is, it's kind of normal. Like, hey man, we've been working on the story. Like, it's not a big deal. Would you mind just letting us publish first? Although I still kind of think, After exchanging pleasantries, Daphne told me that she had received a call from the DNC and was told I had a story. Now, it's not strange the DNC called her. They were coordinating an announcement. What was strange was that she was calling me and taking a menacing tone. She asked if I could hold the story, and I said I couldn't. She was agitated. Why not? I said I'm not going to lose a scoop. Then she got angrier and said, why not? It's not a big deal. Let them make a few phone calls. My jaw dropped. Here it comes. I realized that Daphne Linzer, the head of all political coverage for NBC News, and I just praised NBC News, And MSNBC wasn't calling to advocate for her network. She was calling to advocate the DNC's position. She wanted me to wait so they could call state party leaders. I want to stress, this is big. I know it might sound like a small scoop. Who cares if he knows when the dates are? But the fact that someone working NBC and MSNBC's political coverage went to the defense of the DNC and is putting pressure on a journalist to let them call the party members, that's seriously big. Now, this story that she's calling up may not be important, but think about the implications. MSNBC for years was going after Trump for Russiagate. And now we know that someone working at NBC, the head of all of their political coverage, is acting on the behalf of the Democrats. You see where this is going? I thought to myself, this is how people think it works. It's not, but Daphna was doing it. She kept pressing me. Now I acknowledged for stuff that isn't about serious investigative reporting, there's no problem holding something. But I knew once others got the call, I would lose a scoop. Daphna reminded me she was a national security reporter at Washington Post for 10 years, and they would hold stuff all the time. Note, so people wouldn't get killed. Yeah. Why can't you just wait? Let them make their calls, then you'll be the first to put it into print, she said. I couldn't believe what she was saying. Again, it was fine for me to print the story an hour later, beat her own network by 3 hours. She just wanted me to let the DNC inform state party leaders. Why the hell did she care? I kept telling Daphna no, that I wasn't waiting, and she kept getting more frustrated. She was exasperated. She didn't understand why I couldn't wait for the DNC to make their state notification calls. A reporter for NBC News who runs their political coverage is telling a journalist they don't care if he scoops her actual network. This was not a call on behalf of NBC. This was a political reporter running political coverage for a mainstream news outlet acting on the behalf of the Democrats, a network, MSNBC, that for years was accusing Trump of working with Russia. Maybe it's not always about ratings. This is screwed up. This is huge. I was so surprised that she was talking this way with a total stranger. The head of the political division was trying to bully me at the behest of the DNC over a dumb scoop, even though they may not have asked her to. 2/3 of the way into the conversation, Daphna started a sentence with, "This is off the record," and here it comes. She hadn't said it at the beginning of our conversation, and most important, at no point did I agree, when she said off record, to keep it off record. I'm not one of those gotcha reporters. I think it's bad for sourcing relationships to make people like they constantly feel they have to say off the record, but Daphna isn't a source, and she was calling to intimidate me, so she doesn't get the benefit. Ethics. Yashar Ali, he goes on. She said off record one more time later in the call, and again, just let her keep talking. I did not agree to anything. I then told her I had to go talk to my editor. And she got even more frustrated and said, "No, I want to talk to you about this." I said, "No, I want to go talk to my editor." Then she sent me over the edge and said, "What's your editor's name? I want to talk to them." She was trying to intimidate me on behalf of the DNC. I ended the call. After the call with Daphna, I published the stupid scoop. Then I did a gut check. And over the next 2 hours, I called 10 experienced prominent reporters and told them the story. They were all stunned by what Daphna did and encouraged me to share it publicly. Slow clap. Good job, Yashar. I am not naive to the fact that this incident is going to be twisted by some with an agenda to discredit the media and say they collude with political parties. But I think it's more important to expose bad behavior than keep it under wraps. What Daphna did was unethical. Okay, listen. How are you supposed to respond to that, okay? If Yashar is coming out and saying this, then Yashar, you're the one who's making the allegation and publishing the story about bad behavior. I completely agree with you. People are going to smear the media, but shouldn't this discredit the media? Look, the media is a nebulous term. What does it even mean? In general, there is low trust in the press. But I gotta say, man, should I be trusting NBC at all? At all. When you tell me the head of their political coverage was trying to intimidate you on behalf of the Democrats? Come on, man. Like, what are you supposed to do with that information? Now, I get it. I still think NBC can be trusted to a certain degree. Again, I said pretty good. Not perfect, not great, not the best. But this is damaging to their reputation. And I got to say, I'm going to say it. Daphna should be fired. Straight up. There is no credibility for NBC right now so long as the head of their political coverage did something like this. Yasher said, there are plenty of times reporters will introduce people in politics to other reporters or TV people. I have done it many times. That is advocating for more coverage, not less. Daphne was advocating for me to not do something on behalf of a political party. What I can't figure out is, and no one else I spoke to could understand, why open yourself up to this for a stupid story? How was this worth it? Well, I can say one thing. They wanted to give a heads up to all of the state political parties. They wanted to be in control of the information. That's not how the world works. It's not how the press works. But they had an MSNBC, NBC managing editor try to put pressure on a journalist to give them leverage. What do you say to that? Anyway, I got more videos coming up in a few minutes. I will see you then.